the Chevrolet Camaro.
Yeah, boy.
It has become the face of the Transformers franchise for over a decade, but the 5th gen Camaro nearly went up in flames before it ever saw a chance to hit the road. Today, we find out how the Transformers saved the Camaro from extinction.
These are dark days for fans of the Chevrolet Camaro and Pontiac Firebird.
The early 2000s weren't exactly peaches and cream for the American auto industry. Even for the biggest, baddest car manufacturer in the United States of America, General Motors, this was a decade of trouble. In 2002, due to shrinking sales, GM decided to discontinue the Camaro, ending its 35 years of production. By 2005, GM reported a whopping $10.6 billion in lost revenue. GM brands had grown old and stagnant. Younger, hipper consumers simply weren't interested in buying Camaros. But man, I do have to say, guys with mullets were interested in this shit. I don't mean to speak for all of my fellow country bumpkins here, but man, T-tops were cool. I mean, you could like spit out of them and shit. So, GM decided to rebrand the company from the bottom up in an attempt to get the cool kids back. In 2005, financial analysts advised GM to stop spending its $3 billion buckaroonies on their lame-ass traditional mass marketing strategy, and instead invest those ducats in non-conventional advertising like video games and movies. By embracing this bottom-up approach, GM could maybe, just maybe, repair its public image and recapture the youth market.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
And the upcoming Transformers movie presented a fantastic opportunity to do just that. Filming was scheduled to begin in early 2006, and the production was seeking partnerships from various automobile manufacturers. GM approached the production team with a massive sponsorship deal. They agreed to supply vehicles for every Autobot. Ironhide became a GMC Topkick, Jazz a Pontiac Solstice, Ratchet a Hummer H2. Plus they sprinkled in a whole bunch of extra cars because, you know, fuck it. But for Bumblebee, something special had to be planned. Something new for people to take notice. The new Chevy Camaro.
The Camaro is back.
For the 2007 film, GM allowed the Transformers access to their experimental concept car. This was a massive reveal. Prior to the premiere of the film, the public knew very little about this prototype. The car that Shia LaBeouf's character drives wasn't even a production vehicle. It was basically just a shell slapped on a 2006 Pontiac. It's like they just wanted to dangle this meat in front of our eyes and be like,
I can almost taste it.
When Transformers finally debuted in summer of 2007, not only was it raking it in at the box office, it was raking it in at the dealership as well. Interest in the Camaro boomed. Over 10,000 people pre-ordered the car within the first year alone. Now I know I've spent a lot of time on this channel talking about how awful Michael Bay movies are. But even I have to admit that he makes cars look so mwah, chef's kiss, excellent. The story that Michael Bay created was centered around a boy getting his first car. And who didn't want this car? It was kinda genius, and I hate to say it.
Genius.
With the success of the first movie and the production of the Camaro set to begin with the 2010 model year, GM wasn't holding anything back for the sequel. They added 4 more concept cars to the lineup. A Chevy Volt named Jolt, that's real original. Sideswipe was a Stingray concept, and a Chevy Track and Chevy Beat named Skids and Mudflap. Skids and Mudflap. Are those really their names? That's shit. Those are poop names. To up the hype for the 2010 Camaro release, Bumblebee was given a facelift, and GM even announced the creation of a new special edition Camaro. And it looks like Bumblebee! The Atlantic even dubbed the new upcoming movie the most expensive GM ad ever made. Now, at this point you might be thinking, wow, things are looking good for General Motors and American car companies. And that's where you would be dead wrong.
General Motors is expected to officially file for bankruptcy tomorrow morning.
But for years, GM has been buried under an unsustainable mountain of debt.
Can't you just tell me in absolute terms, how much money do you need to survive, General Motors, from today until March 30th?
In 2009, General Motors was on the verge of bankruptcy. The US government gave GM northwards of 50 billion, that is billion with a B, in taxpayer dollars to stop the company from going under. Not only was GM forced to pull out of most of its promotional deals, like the one they had with Transformers, many of the cars promoted in the film were also taken off the market. And at least for Ironhide and Ratchet, when GM stopped promoting them, their asses got blasted. They got killed off. Gone.
Who killed
Ironhide?
As the years wore on, there was definitely a noticeable decline in GM vehicles compared to other major manufacturers. Brands like Western Star or Mercedes brought up more of the Autobot and Decepticon cast. Sure, General Motors was still involved, but GM wasn't in a position to throw insalubrious amounts of cash to promote cars that simply didn't sell. General Motors was slimming down and was only investing in assets that made money. Luckily, one of those assets was the Camaro.
This is the most famous car in the world, Bumblebee. You know?
Bumblebee and the Camaro were a match made in heaven. The films, though kinda crappy in my opinion, offered moviegoers a chance to sneak a peek at new performance packages and upcoming styling options. GM was manufacturing the best performing Camaro in its history. Performance packages like the ZL1 topped 650 horsepower. Fuck it, the 2010 V6 EconoBox got over 300 horsepower. And the sales were friggin' phenomenal too. General Motors has sold over 880,000 Generation 5 and Generation 6 Camaros as of right now. Some of those model years even outsold the Mustang. The friggin' Mustang. You know, the best-selling sports car in US history or something? I don't fucking know. And you can't tell me Transformers did not help GM rake in these profits. 10% of all Camaros in the first 2 production years were yellow. More than any other production car. So we have to ask ourselves, why did this work? As of right now, Bumblebee is probably the most beloved character in the Transformers franchise. And in my opinion, the most redeeming thing about the live action movies, because I just don't like Michael Bay, but you know, he does a good job with Bumblebee. Making your cars look cool means people want the car. A kid that saw Bumblebee in 2007 grew up loving that car and wanting that car.
Bumblebee, is that you?
By investing in video games and movies, GM knew it was creating lifelong customers. And this is nothing new. GM has done this before. Look at Smokey and the Bandit in the 1970s or Knight Rider in the 1980s. These were huge films to promote F-bodies like the Firebird. Unfortunately, I must end my rant with some bad news. It appears that newer live-action films like Bumblebee and Rise of Beast do not have the same money-grubbing relationship that GM and Michael Bay had. Bumblebee is mostly a V-dub again, and that's super cool and way truer to the original series, but that does mean less Camaro. Unfortunately, sales for the Camaro have also been kind of sucky over the past few years. So sucky, in fact, GM plans to cease production of the Camaro in 2024, as General Motors looks to phase out its gasoline engines and move towards electric vehicles.
Oh no! We suck again!
So with that said, is this the end of the love story between Camaro and Transformer? Let me know in the comments below. And that's all I wrote. Thank you all for watching, and until next time.